Hello, African moms. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Linda, and today I'm going to talk to us about the judgment and expectations of the societies that we find ourselves in the diaspora. Last time we talked about being an African single mom in the diaspora and how you can break ground for your children when you lose your husband and you become a single parent. Whether you travel to the diaspora as a single mom or if you find yourself single in the diaspora. And we say that one of the key things that you need to do as a single African mom is to communicate. Tell your children the truth about your situation and your circumstances at that time. Now, today I would like to talk to us about some of the very challenging experiences that we find ourselves in. And one of them is societal judgment. Now, there are particular communities that we find ourselves in, that we live in this in the diaspora, that are so culturally neat in terms of marriage. And when you're walking around or in the neighborhood, in the your neighbor next door, your neighbor in the opposite house is married, they have their husband and their children are playing together, and all that kind of thing. Now, you notice that when I'm talking about this, I'm not just talking about this judgment only from the diaspora point of view, but this is something that happens even to African single moms outside of the diaspora who are actually still in Africa. Now, looking at the way life is currently, there are so many single parents. This means, when I'm saying single parents, I mean single moms and single dads, and not just Africans, from all races all over the world. But then there is this kind of a perception that is tagged around single moms as compared to how single dads are seen in the world, are perceived in the world. A single dad, actually, everybody else will be sympathizing, empathizing with them, and everyone is trying to find them a wife and all that kind of thing, or a girlfriend to help them take care of the kids. But then when it comes to being a single mom, it's a different ballgame altogether. Now, you notice that sometimes when you're a single mom, and especially when you are an African single mom in the diaspora, one, they find it very strange. Most people in that particular diaspora country where you are, they find it very strange that how did you come to the diaspora on your own without a husband? How are you out here on your own without a man? Because there is the notion at the back of everybody's mind that it is only the man that has the capability of making it possible for a woman to travel abroad. And in some cultures in these diasporan countries, a woman is not supposed to be seen alone, without a man, alone and with children. So if you're an African single mom in the diaspora, I need you to realize one thing. You do not have to go explaining yourself to people. You don't owe anybody an explanation about what is going on with your life. You are the only one who understands how you found yourself where you are currently, and you are the only one who knows how you're surviving the circumstance that you are in currently. So that means you do not owe anyone an explanation, unless that person is interested and wants to be a part of your life. That's a different thing. But somebody just asking why you're alone with your children, you don't owe anyone an explanation. Okay, I'm not saying you don't have to. I'm just saying that you do not have to do it. If you do not feel like it, don't go ahead. Simply just walk away from it. Now, why do I say that you don't really have to explain yourself? Because I'm trying to imagine, how many people will you explain yourself to? How many neighbors will you explain yourself to? And for how long are you going to explain yourself? So basically, what I'm trying to say is this: the judgment will always be there. There are people who will not want to hang out anywhere around you just because you're a single mom. There are people who will not invite you to the parties in the estate because you're a single mom. There are people who will not want to associate you with anything because you're a single mom. And to top that up, don't forget, you are a single African mom. It counts with a lot. Now, when I talk about judgment, there are roles sometimes that are given, like for instance, you go to the churches and there are some responsibilities that are given in church. You might not be given those responsibilities just because you're a single mom. Don't forget, you're a single African mom. So when I mention this, I'm stressing on that because I need you to remember what comes with you being an African single mom in the diaspora. First, being an African in the diaspora, and secondly, being a single mom in the diaspora. So it's not just you being a single mom, because in that place where you are, there are single moms everywhere. But in your case, there are two things here. You are an African, that is one. And secondly, you're a single mom. So you're not just single mom, you are an African single mom in the diaspora. So you are not perceived the same way they perceive their single moms in the countries where you are. And that is why I say that you do not have to explain yourself. You don't owe anybody an explanation. As long as you're not breaking any rules, you're doing your job as you are expected to do wherever place you're working, and you are delivering. You're taking care of your kids, and you're making sure that your children are not a nuisance to your neighbors or within the school where they are going to. Or that is where the judgment comes in. As an African single mom, you must make sure that your children are not a nuisance in your neighborhood. A single African mom in the diaspora, you must make sure that your children are not a nuisance in the neighborhood where you're living. And you must make sure that your children are not a nuisance in the schools where they are going. Because this judgment will not just be on you, it will trickle down to your children. That is where it begins, because some of your neighbors do not know you, they know your children. Some of your neighbors have never met you, they've met your children. Some of the people, almost everyone at school, have met your children, but they've never met you. So out here, unlike where we come from in our African countries where you just take your children to school, out here, when you take your children to any given school, most of the time they want the details of both their father and you as their mom. And everybody else has the assumption, is walking around with the assumption that all of you are supposed to be compact. And if that is not the case, it becomes something unusual. So you must, first of all, make sure that you train your children, make your children understand that they are not growing in the same system as the rest of the other children. They must be aware that in the neighborhood where they are going to be interacting with other children, the kids they are going to be interacting with have both parents, yours do not. And how they are handled out there, you must build the confidence of your children to be aware that it doesn't matter whether they have both parents or only one parent. And you being an African, from an African country, living in the diaspora with your children as a single mom, you have a lot of work to do. One, you must protect your children from the kind of guilt that the other children who they interact with or the other children that they play with might want to bring on to them. And therefore, it means you must make sure that you build your children's confidence. You must make your children be aware that they are enough. They are enough as they are as human beings. And nobody and nothing should in any way stop them from achieving whatever they want to achieve in this life. Nothing should stop them from exploring whatever they want to explore in this life. So being a single African diaspora mom means that there are things you have to do differently from how we are cultured back home. You know where we come from. This conversation of parents sitting down with their children and talking and telling them things about life is not, it doesn't exist. It's just a few families that do this. In our African countries, you are aware that whatever the parent says is final and the child does not have a voice. Now, when you move from Africa to these diasporan countries where we find ourselves in, how children are brought up out here is totally different. Kids out here can speak freely to their parents. They can express themselves freely. They can ask questions. And therefore, as your children are interacting with these other children in these diasporan countries, they acquire those kind of practices. You cannot be a rigid parent at this point. You cannot be the mom that whatever I say is final. No. You need to be that parent that listens. You need to be that parent that advises. You need to be that parent that hears the other side of the story from your child. So, what am I trying to say in short? As an African diaspora mom out here, one of the things that you need not to bother yourself with is explaining why you're single with your children in diaspora. And secondly, work on your children's self-esteem. Build their confidence, build their esteem, that even when they're interacting with people outside of your house, they do not feel left out. They do not feel less than. I know you know what I'm talking about. And I know you have gone through this when your child walks into the house crying because of what the neighbor's kid said. You need to work on that as a single African diaspora mom. And that also means that you, as an African single mom outside here in the diaspora, your confidence level is something you have to work on. Because if you do not have the confidence to walk around the streets here, if you do not have the confidence to maneuver your ways around here, then how are you going to make your children confident? How are you going to make sure that your children do not feel bothered about whatever everybody else says about them? So there are stages that you have to go through. And I'm talking about this now because there are single African moms who have just moved to the diaspora just recently. You're less than a year old in the diaspora and you're already experiencing this and you're already feeling so overwhelmed. You're almost going into depression. You're overthinking. You're even asking yourself questions about whether this was a good decision or not, and if whether you need to carry yourself and go back home and things like that. Nope. Just stop right there. Okay? You are not the first to go through this, and that is why we are here talking to you. We want to let you know that we have been through what you're going through, and I want to let you know that please do not hold yourself hostage because of what people think about you. Do not hold yourself hostage because of what people are saying. I mean, you know why you decided to move. You were so happy when you were boarding that flight. Why do you want somebody to take that away from you? Just because of what they think about you. I mean, you are an African. You are human just like them. You cannot change the fact that you come from Africa. You cannot change the fact that you were born in Africa. You cannot change the fact that you are a single mom right now. If it happens that some way along the way you meet someone, that will be a good thing. But don't forget, you're just starting your journey. There are some single moms who have already made peace with themselves and they're not looking for anyone. They're okay being single moms. So what I'm trying to say is this: work on your confidence, work on your confidence, work on your self-esteem, work on your children's confidence and self-esteem. And on top of that, you do not owe anybody an explanation. You do not owe any single person an explanation on why you are in the diaspora, you are an African, and you're a single mom. You don't owe anyone an explanation. If your husband died, that's a different thing altogether. You can mention it. But if he left, how long are you going to be explaining to people why he left or how he left or how you found yourself in the position where you are currently? How long? And how many people are you going to be explaining it to? So girl, I need you to rethink how you're approaching this. Focus on why you came here. Focus on what brought you to the diaspora. Focus on how you're building confident children. Focus on how you're building and rebuilding yourself as an individual. And when you do that, tomorrow will be different. When you do that, you will look at yourself in the mirror and wonder, why didn't I do this sooner? So I want to assure you that you don't have to explain yourself. Just work on your confidence and work on your kids' confidence, and everything else will fall in place. Okay, sister? I trust you with this. Okay? Now, I look forward to listening to some of your experiences and reading some of your experiences in the diasporan countries where you are, and how you've navigated the judgment of neighbors, your workstations, the schools where your children are going. Please share so that we can learn, and also to help other African single mothers in the diaspora on how to go about life and how to manage these judgments when they find themselves in these places. Okay, I look forward to hearing from you. All right, please like, share, subscribe. I will be back again soon. All right, we will keep talking about new ideas, things that we've experienced and how to navigate, and things not to do. All right, and remember, our goal here is to make sure that we are growing healthily, we are sharing truthfully, and we are helping our children as we also grow. All right, so see you next time. All right, bye for now, and have a lovely, lovely, lovely time wherever place you are.